events that, maybe rattled the market a little bit. So our stock was, underperforming the market compared to our peer group for, really about, 3 or 4 quarters, which was a little bit distressing. And so I decided to put the share purchase program back in place. We had it in place before, but we hadn't renewed it. But I decided to renew it, and we actually threw some bids into the market to buy some stock, and then all of a sudden the stock took off on us, and now the stock is up 30% or something in the last 4 weeks or whatever it is. I have to do the math exactly, but it's performed quite well over the last few weeks, and so we haven't bought any back, but it's there. If we see any weakness in the stock, we'll definitely be in the market buying back shares, and I'm happy to do that.
In today's news recap, silver bar premiums rise to highest level in 9 months. Premiums on gold and silver coins and bars have been on the low side ever since the panic over the 2023 bank failures calmed down. Retail investors have been selling back silver at higher than normal levels over the past year, which had left local coin shops burdened with excessive inventory. That helped to keep premiums low, although in the past 3 days, there's been a substantial change in silver premiums. Matt Riley of EF Bullion reports that wholesale premiums for generic bars have risen from 10 cents to 50 cents in the past few days. A level, he says, premiums haven't reached in at least 9 months. We also talked last week about how Matt has been seeing silver coins and bars melted down into investment bars that are being used to meet industrial demand, which makes it even more interesting to see the change in premiums. Later this week, we'll examine whether the bulk of the retail selling has already occurred. But the premium increase is worth taking note of, as we've seen several periods since 2020 where there's been a surge in demand that's driven premiums higher for extended periods of time. In some cases, significantly higher, such as when American Silver Eagles were trading as high as $18 over spot in 2022. Keep in mind that a shortage of a particular retail product is different from an outright shortage of physical silver needed to make those products. But with the election, the Fed's rate cuts, and the BRICS meeting still on deck this year, it certainly wouldn't be a surprise to see another surge in premium levels. Now we'll show you the best clips of the latest interview, but first, smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you do not miss out our daily recaps. Enjoy the episode.
970 million US dollars in shares of First Majestic. Gatos shareholders end up owning 38% of the combined company, which is a great thing for both shareholder groups. And it combines 3 world-class district scale mining projects in Mexico. The Santa Elena, which produces, a little around 10 million thereabouts ounces of silver equivalent, of which about 70% of that is gold and about 30% of that is silver. And then San Dimas, which is another, long-standing world-class mine in Mexico as well, 50% gold, 50% silver, also producing around 10 million silver equivalent ounces. And then with Gatos, around the same number. It's actually a little bit bigger, but with the joint venture, we're getting 70% of that production, which is just shy of about 10 million ounces as well. And about 70% of that is silver. The rest is in the form of lead and zinc. So we'll end up having 3 world-class projects under our umbrella, all of which are producing around 10 million-ish silver equivalent ounces, taking our production up from around today, about 21 million annualized silver equivalent ounces to about 31 or maybe 32 million silver equivalent ounces in 2025 upon closing. So it's pretty exciting for both shareholder groups. Gatos has obviously performed quite well over the last 12 months, and First Majestic has underperformed slightly, as which we can talk about if you wish, but I think it's a great transaction for both companies.
Yeah, and Keith, obviously there were a few big components here.
Okay, we never stop, and obviously we know the silver space extremely well. We know Mexico better than probably anyone. We've been in Mexico for 21 years now when I put the company together, and We're a pretty big player in Mexico, so we know the Mexican landscape extremely well. And this asset we've had our eyes on for some time. When it became available earlier this year, it went through a process. The banks got involved, of course, you can imagine. And they had their advisors on their side, and we had our advisors on our side, and there was a whole group of other companies participating. It was a very competitive process that lasted, several months, and came to the end when it was news released, and we ended up being on top of the bidding process, which is good to see. But it was quite competitive, and it was an open bidding system, and nevertheless, you talked about exploration. Now we look at Santa Elena very much the same as San Dimas, or pardon me, as Los Gatos, because Los Gatos is 103,000 hectares in size. It's a district scale, huge property, very, very underexplored. And then you look at Santa Elena at 102,000 hectares in size, which when we bought it back in 2015, it was producing 3 million ounces. Today it's producing almost 10. And that was all through exploration success. And still a small portion of that property has been explored. So we have 9 rigs active right now at Santa Elena, and there'll be a similar number. I think that there actually is currently a similar number of rigs at Los Gatos. So, they're taking their exploration projects very seriously, as we are within First Majestic. And both of those mines are expandable. And I think the life of mines over the next, 5 to 10 years will be expanded substantially as a result of exploration success. Yeah, so right now, First Majestic at 43% silver. The rest is in the form of gold. On a combined entity will be 51% silver, and the 49% is broken up between gold and lead and zinc. The lead and zinc is, maybe 20%. The other, whatever the number is, it's 29 or whatever works out to is in the form of gold. And on a cash cost basis or an all-in sustaining cost basis, we do ramp down a little bit. We have seen elevated costs over the last 12 months at La Encantada and San Dimas, and this is well documented. We put a lot of news out on this because we have seen these elevations, and the water situation that we had at La Encantada drove costs up there, which has now been resolved. So you'll see in Q4 the cost of La Encantada coming down. Some of the labor issues we've had at San Dimas have also elevated costs there as well. That normally produces ounces in the 14 to 15 level. It's been higher in the 18 level over the last 12 months. And then with Gatos coming in, it's in the 16 level. So, all in, a combined entity. Now, of course, we have not put out our 2025 guidance yet, and both companies, Los Gatos and First Majestic, are still in our budgeting process for 2025. But we're expecting, all-in sustaining costs in the 16 to 18 range next year.
First Majestic Silver has recently acquired Gatos Silver in a stock deal valued at $970 million, bringing together 3 top-tier mining projects in Mexico: Santa Elena, San Dimas, and Gatos. Each of these mines produces around 10 million silver equivalent ounces annually, which will boost First Majestic's total production from about 21 million ounces today to around 31 to 32 million ounces by 2025. This increase will strengthen the company's position as a leading silver producer and offer significant value to shareholders. The combined company will produce about 51% silver, with the remaining 49% made up of gold, lead, and zinc. The expected all-in sustaining costs are projected to be between $16 and $18 per ounce, reflecting improvements in cost management after resolving recent challenges like water shortages and labor issues at some of their mines. First Majestic is focused on exploring and expanding its mining operations with active drilling programs aimed at increasing the life and output of its mines. In addition to growing its production, First Majestic is also taking steps to improve its financial position. The company has introduced a share repurchase program to take advantage of what it sees as undervalued stock prices, showing confidence in its future. Furthermore, First Majestic is exploring exploring the potential restart of its Jarrett Canyon gold mine, but it plans to proceed cautiously to ensure the mine's long-term success. First Majestic is also unique in the mining industry because it operates its own mint, turning silver from its Mexican mines into retail products for sale directly to consumers. This mine-to-mint approach allows the company to bypass traditional markets and offer silver directly to end users. With these combined efforts, First Majestic is well positioned for continued growth and success in the silver and gold markets. Now we'll show you the best clip of the latest Neumeyer interview, but first, smash the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video with a silver bug. Enjoy the episode.
Well, we've been meeting with our shareholders, of course, but Les Gatos shareholders. We've met with many of them over the last month, or the last several weeks since the announcement came out, and we've got a number of meetings coming up over the next month as well. We've got quite a rigorous travel schedule over the next 2 months, so we'll be meeting more of them and talking to more of them. But I think we've not really heard any resistance. It looks like a win-win for both parties. I think maybe some investors are saying First Majestic's paying too much, and Les Gatos is selling for too little. But I guess that's a common thing that you're going to hear from both sides. But the big institutional shareholders, the people that really understand what the combined entity looks like in the future of First Majestic, I know for a fact, because I've spoken to dozens and dozens of people, that it's being looked at as a very favorable transaction. And but we do have to go through shareholder votes. That's a transaction of this size. You need both shareholders to vote, and we don't know that date yet because there's a couple moving parts related to regulatory and legal situations with the SEC and so on. So we'll know in the next 30 to 45 days, we expect, when the shareholder vote can take place, but we're hoping it's going to be late November or possibly early December. And then assuming that all takes place, we do need the Mexican antitrust also that's a common thing every time a transaction occurs, even in Canada, for example, or the United States for that matter. The government steps in and make sure there's not a monopoly situation and those types of issues. So so it does go through that regulatory process within the country, Mexico, and it should be pretty easy. We've gone through it many times. It takes 60 to 90 days. With the change in government, which takes place on October 1st. It potentially could cause a delay of some weeks. I'm not sure about that, but there is always that potential. But we do expect closing will occur in January. At least that's our current target.
Okay, well, we will keep an eye out for that. And something you mentioned a little bit earlier, just worth going over again, was the La Encantada water issue, which is now resolved. And you were saying we're looking at fourth quarter when we'll see that impacted into the cost structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty crazy because that mine's it's our smallest mine. It produces around 3 million ounces of 100% silver and Dory bars, which is great. It's been a great cash flow producer for us for almost a decade. Actually, longer than a decade. We bought it in 2006, and it's been a great cash flow provider for the business, and has helped finance us, and other endeavors, over that period of time. So, when this well collapsed in June of 2023, it was completely unexpected. And this mine has 3 wells, each producing approximately 30% of the water each. And one goes, and all of a sudden you lose 30% of your water, and you need water in the process. So all of a sudden, you can't turn the mills, you can't do underground development, you can't do exploration. But we could have, I suppose, laid off the workforce, but we didn't know when we were going to discover a new water well, and we thought it would be quite easy to do. Well, we didn't discover a new water well until April of 2024 of sufficient capacity. And it took us, a few months after that to build the piping system and, get it to the mill. So, starting in June, July, we started filling up all the tanks again, which took some time. So, we went from about 2,000 tons a day, which was losing money, so costs went up to about $30 an ounce, which is pretty shocking. And it lasted there for a couple of quarters. And now we're back up to over 3,000 tons a day, which is normal course for that operation. All the tanks are filled back up with water. We're all back, 100%. The grades are actually looking quite interesting. So, we're going to, I think, we should see, just based on the last few weeks, a pretty darn good fourth quarter for La Encantada going back to its normal cost structure in the, 18 kind of dollar range where it's been for the last several years.
Wow, what an episode today. Keith Neumeyer really brought the heat with his deep dive into First Majestic's game-changing acquisition of Gatos Silver and the Fresh Share buyback program. His breakdown of why the company is betting big on these moves really struck a chord with many of you out there. It's not just about numbers, it's about strategy. And Keith laid it all out, showing how First Majestic is stepping up their game and making bold moves to dominate the silver space. Thanks for tuning in and sharing your thoughts. Keep the conversation going in the comments below. What did you think of Keith's insights? Are you on board with First Majestic's big plays? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future updates. Catch you on the next one.